Thank you, everybody, for joining our session today. My name is Neeraj Kumar. I'm an MCT, Microsoft Certified Trainer, and I'm an enterprise cloud architect, and I'm in IT industry for almost 18 years. And this is a series, it's called Azure Talk. In Azure Talk, we cover topics on Azure, and we have been conducting this kind of session for our Azure community for almost a year now, and we have conducted more than 50 sessions. So what we do is we cover different topics on Azure, and in that series, we have decided that we'll cover today Azure security. And in past, we have divided our sessions into beginner series and advanced level series. And for past 2 months, we are going through a series on beginners. And in past session, we have covered up to storage, and now we have moved into the Azure security. So it will be continued in future. We'll continue to go deeper into Azure security. But today's session is going to be more around Azure security, Microsoft Azure, how secure Microsoft Azure is, and how Microsoft ensures that it meets and complies, and it has the trust from its customer. So today I'm also joined by Lalit Rawat, who is also a Microsoft certified trainer. He was Azure Master of the Month for 2 consecutive months from India region. So I'm joined by him, and he will be helping us go through the sessions and go through the agenda, and also we'll do lots of hands-on demo session as a part of this. With that, before I move on to the agenda, I have some housekeeping item just for quality's sake, just to make sure that we maintain the highest quality of our recording. I have muted all the audience and participants. So if you have any question, don't be discouraged. Just type in the chat, and we will be able to answer those questions either online or we can also type in. We can respond in the chat. So our team will be constantly monitoring the chat. And I hear, can you guys hear me? Lalit, could you confirm?
Yes, Neeraj, I'm able to hear you.
Okay, so there was a message that people couldn't hear. Sorry. All right. So just for housekeeping purpose, I've muted the audience so that we maintain the quality, and I really apologize in advance, but this is what we have to make sure that we maintain highest quality of recording, which gets published out to YouTube channel. We also have our own Azure Talk community group, which is Azure Talk Telegram group, and you can join that if you are already not part of our Azure Talk Telegram group, which is an instant messenger based community group. It's https://t.me/Azure Talk. We also have our DevOps group, which you can join. It's https://me/Azure DevOps Pro. So, these two groups are related to Azure. In case if you have any questions related to DevOps, or in case of anything related to Azure, you can join these groups. You have to install the Telegram, and then after that, if you click on this link, you will be able to join our group. We have more than 3,100 members at this point of time in Azure Talk, and it's growing, and the community is becoming stronger and stronger day by day. People are very helpful, and they respond questions and answers with answers quickly, as long as they know the answers. We also have our O365 group. So in case if you're interested for O365 and you're working on the software as a service offering of Microsoft O365 and EMS, you can join that group too, which is again t.me/O365talk. Finally, we have our own YouTube channel where we publish all these recording of these sessions. So in case you missed to attend any of our past sessions, you can always refer to those. You can go to our channel, youtube.com/she/AzureTalk. So you can go and refer all our sessions there. We also have playlist. We have beginner series playlist. We have storage playlist. We have networking playlist. We have IAM playlist, and so on. So we keep on building those playlists so that somebody wants to focus on certain area, they can refer those onto our YouTube channel. So with that, I will move on to the. Sorry, I'll move on to the agenda. What are we going to cover today? Okay, so as I said, this is a session on Azure security. So we'll start with Azure data center security. So how Microsoft is securing its own facility and how Microsoft is instilling confidence in customers that their data is secure within Microsoft data center, which hosts Azure. So we'll talk about Azure data center security, what security measures used by Microsoft to ensure safety and the security of their own data center. We'll also talk about Azure Trust Center. So Azure Trust Center is a portal where you can go and check out different security certification from Microsoft, how they maintain the privacy, how they maintain the encryption, everything. So we'll talk about Azure Trust Center. So in case you are in a proposal and you're evaluating which cloud to go, AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, you can refer Azure Trust Center if you have to present the security certifications and on how secure Azure is. You can always refer Azure Trust Center, which is an online portal. Microsoft maintains it and publishes all the data. Then we'll talk about the four pillars of Azure Trust Center, which is security, how they ensure the security. We'll talk about the privacy, and we'll also talk about what are different compliances that they comply to, different ISO standards and different cloud security alliance, CSA alliances, the mandate that they follow, and all the certifications. So you can all refer those on to Azure Trust Center. And finally, how they maintain the transparency. Then we'll talk about one of the security product from Microsoft, which is Azure Security Center, which monitors your workload, Windows or Linux VM, and reports any security vulnerabilities, any flaws that you have within your system, and will report it. And now Azure Security Center can report it can monitor not only Azure cloud, but also it can monitor on-prem as well. So we'll talk about more details in that. Then we'll talk about data encryption. What exactly is data encryption and how do you enable that? We'll talk more on high level, and we'll go deeper in subsequent sessions. So what is data encryption at rest and what is data encryption in transit? That when we're storing data, it is encrypted, that is at rest. And then when we're transmitting data out of our storage to the destination, then in the flight, how it is encrypted. So we'll talk about that too. Finally, we'll talk about Azure Key Vault. Azure Key Vault is a key management system from Microsoft in cloud, which helps you to manage your keys and secrets. And using this is the technology behind any encryption that you would implement in Azure. So we'll talk about what is Azure Key Vault services, how to create this, secrets, and how to store these. We'll look into the demo. Then you also have analytics, where Key Vault, who is using Key Vault for how many requests, read requests has been received, and the operations, everything, all those analytics. You can look into the portal using OMS, Operational Management Suite, and they have Key Vault analytics solution in OMS, with which if you can connect, you will be able to see all the information about Azure Key Vault users and the pattern, and who has access, all those kind of audit information in a visual format. You can see it using Azure Key Vault analytics. Finally, we'll have demo as we said, and we'll try to do as much as possible. And obviously we'll have a question and answer session. So in case you have any question, you can keep typing in the chat, but if there is any further question, we'll open the floor for 5 minutes and we'll take questions. All right, with that, so we'll straight away dive into the first agenda of the day, which is Azure Data Center Security. So Azure Data Center Security is divided into 3 pieces, which Microsoft is handling. So Microsoft will make sure that the physical assets of the data center is secure. So the servers, the hypervisors, the switches, and the networking devices all are secure. Then Microsoft has a data center operations. So how committed Microsoft is and how they are operating their own data center. And finally, the cloud infrastructure, which includes the PaaS, platform as a service, app services environment, and how they are securing that, or Azure SQL, or any platform as a service offering. So what do you see on the left side? It's divided into two pieces. One, on the left side, it's a commitment of Microsoft. That is, Microsoft will make sure, the security of those. And the right side, what you see is, this is the commitment which is joint responsibility. Some of the responsibility, most of the responsibility is with the customer. So, for example, customer will be responsible for virtual machine security. So like in any vulnerability, anything, you have to make sure that it is patched. If you have any application and workload, you have to make sure that security, you're securing it. And if you have any data, you have to make sure that data is encrypted, all those settings are turned on. So this is a responsibility mostly with the customer, but there are certain cases where Microsoft will also help you with that, but more so this is a responsibility of customer. Whereas the security of physical asset, data center operations, and cloud infrastructure is a responsibility of Microsoft. So some of the the principles that they apply for securing physical assets is they have perimeters networks, then buildings which is secure and which is like very secure. Nobody can enter that unless you go through a biometric identification, and only you can enter. They have security controls. These security controls include, as I said, biometric authentication, and also, it's fully monitored 24/7 and video recorded. So anything that's happening is getting recorded. They have their own process for provisioning and maintenance of all the hardware that they purchase, they procure. So like, it's a fully secure and safe. So then in data center operations, security and management, we have security operations center. So, Microsoft operates as 24/7/365 security operations. So like, these operations is, fully managed by Microsoft, and Microsoft is responsible for the security and operations of it. So they make sure that, their data center is not down, it's up and running, so that you don't lose any of your, data which you store in Azure. Then they have their own incident assessment team, which is dedicated Azure assessment team. So in case there is a downtime, they figure out so that it doesn't happen it again, and they do a root cause analysis of that. And plus, they also have their SOX, Security Operations Center, which is continuously monitored by their own experts. So they have their huge MS SOX, Microsoft Security Operations Center, which is equipped with all the technologies which can help them detect and thwart any security incident. Then finally you have cloud infrastructure security. You have multi-tenancy, so they make sure that that it's a secure. One customer's data is not mingled with other customer, and you don't do a network wire capture, which can tap into other customers' infrastructure. So those kind of, they also have DDoS protection. So in case there is any DDoS, Microsoft will have security measures inbuilt, so make sure that it's secured against DDoS, which is distributed denial of service attack. And finally, they maintain data segregation, and also they offer you encryption. So in case of you want to encrypt any data, you can do so. So with that, I will move to the next slide. And which is Azure Trust Center. Now, Lalit, do you have anything to add on to before I move into Azure Trust Center about Microsoft data center security? You want to add anything?
No, I think you have covered most of the things. So basically, um, how Microsoft and design this data center in such a way that is making sure their customer data is secure even wherever their data centers are and across the world. So it is Microsoft which he has committed to the customers, and they reveal that how they are in securing these features and those data centers and the customers data which will go into the next or the next slide which we have covered. So that's how Microsoft securing your data basically and their premises.
Sure. Yeah, so that leads us into Azure Trust Center. So what is Azure Trust Center? As I said, it's a portal maintained and managed by Microsoft. And Azure Trust Center has four pillars, and you can find information about how what's the security practice Microsoft is employing to make sure that their cloud is secure. You will also find the privacy statement that Microsoft has put out. And the third pillar is transparency, and fourth is compliance. What are the different laws, regulation that Microsoft is complying to? What are the different ISO standards it has, Azure is complying to? So those, plus, you can look at the certifications, third-party audit, all those information that, is going on. And as a part of this Azure Trust Center, you can go and check out the documentation, which is on the Microsoft portal side. And, those documentation is categorized into four different categories: security, privacy. So security is where, how Microsoft is, keeping your data safe by, controlling access using identity or RBAC or role-based access based on that. So that's a security. Then you have privacy. Privacy is where, as I talked about, Microsoft will make sure that the ownership and control over the data that they have collected is not misused. So, for example, any virtual machine that you run, and once it is decommissioned, Microsoft will not use any data left on that for any kind of analytics, any kind of purpose. So Microsoft has that privacy, so which is committed. Microsoft is committed for this, so you control the data collection and the ownership. Then you have transparency, which is third pillar, where it ensures that as far as customers' data is concerned, it is clear and visible to only customer, to not anybody else. And also there are certifications which Microsoft produces and audit that it does. Also, how data is accessed and who can access it, those kind of information, you can maintain it. All right, I see somebody saying screen is blank. Is it for everybody or is just for Amit? It's good. Okay.
I'm able to see. Yeah.
All right. So Amit, maybe you have to rejoin. Sorry. And then finally, you have compliance. So compliance is where Azure has taken steps to make sure that industry-specific security and compliance standards are met, and it's not only met but also audited by third party, and they issue those certificates. So Microsoft, this four pillar is what installs the confidence of customer in Azure, and Azure, it takes security very seriously, and Microsoft takes security very seriously. So all this information you can find if you can go and check out on Microsoft portal and search for Azure Trust Center. You will get this and all this information out there. Okay, so with that, maybe I will let Lalit lead this slide, which is Azure Security Center, and talk about this tool, which is a tool offering from Microsoft, which helps to secure your workload in cloud and also on-prem. So Lalit.
Yeah, sure, Neeraj. So basically, when you just see a Azure Security Center, so the first things which comes in the mind that, okay, it's a security center, but what will I get and how will I control over the cloud services, over the Azure services which Microsoft does provide? And if you can see, there are a lot of customers who are having some doubts and the complaining about if everything is moved to the cloud, what is the control in our hand? How we can mitigate those compliance issues, the vulnerability, the security risk, because everything is in the public and probably it will be in the shared sources or the dedicated sources. So how can I control, and from the auditing prospects, what data, because everything is managed by the Microsoft. This is a a third party for an organization or the banking and the commercial. So that's the reason Microsoft, think of to, get this services enrolled and enhanced to, get those vulnerability comes into the one place and it will show wherever the vulnerability. So when it just comes with the security centers, you can see each and every services which is there in the Microsoft Azure, it has been, integrated. So it will give you a recommendation, it will give you, security solutions and then alert events. And apart from that, if you can see that security alerts, it has the priority as well. How the priorities P1, P2, P3 and the P5 priorities are there. So basically, what you do is just go and collect those logs, and even if you have forgot to apply an NSG or some VMs are exposed to an internet, or let's say there are a SQL servers which is there and you didn't enable an auditing and the threading or the auditing logs itself, so it will give you those errors into the security centers and advance the patching vulnerability, the Linux servers patching vulnerabilities are there. So even though it does support for Linux as well as a Windows VMs, which includes those vulnerabilities, securities, risk, and everything. So you'll get each and everything over here. And apart from that, it will give you the solutions and it will provide you the how your environment are healthy. Let's say if you don't have apply and firewall on your environment, because everything is connecting to your public cloud over the Azure subscription. So it will always say that you have to enable and a firewall in between your public cloud and to the Azure. So whenever the traffic will goes to the Microsoft Azure data center, it will route through the firewall, which you can where you have a control on the traffic. Apart from that, there is risk that your environment might be hacked or there might be a DDoS attack. And then apart from those, it will give you, if you have a web applications or if you're running in databases or you have a storage account, it will give you the view that your so many of storage accounts are not encrypted, the VM disk are not encrypted, or if there is any access or let's say some users has been compromised with their credentials or the password, or someone is recently have come with one of the scenarios where one of a bigger organizations candidate to give upload this SQL databases code to the GitHub, and Microsoft send out an alert, boss,
Yeah, yeah,
your
that's
data has been compromised.
correct. So like, Azure Security Center is different, modules as Lalit pointed out. So it will give you alert based on and categorizing based on the compute. So if like, your Azure disk encryption is not turned on, it will, report this. If, you have not enabled NSG and you have not blocked internet outbound access, that will get reported. If your, data or storage account is not encrypted, that will get reported. Similarly, if your SSL, HTTPS is not turned on, any vulnerability on the application web app, that will also be reported. So all these information you will get as a part of Azure Security Center, and it's a very comprehensive tool, and I think we also have demo. In that demo we will cover that.
Right,
uh,
If you can see in the left side on this screenshot, you have a couple of services: compute, networking, storage and data, applications, and identity and access. So each and most of the services has been covered in this security center.
yeah, and another thing, I think recently, earlier, the security center was only supported in Azure. Now I think you can, it supports hybrid security, which means now you can also monitor your on-premise, security for your workload running on-premise. That also you can do it. All right.
Right, Neeraj. Yeah.
So. You're saying is there a service free? So I think there are two tiers, right? So AC, not AC, sorry, that's missing. AC has two tiers. One is free and one is standard. So free is free, but there is limitations that that you will have, and then standard is where you will get more in-depth analysis of your security vulnerabilities, right? So
Right,
that's what it
Neeraj.
is. That's what it
Yeah.
is.
So for free is this 500 MB per day, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll move on to the next slide, and we'll take the questions. And I see those questions coming there. Please keep typing, and we'll take those questions. So the next topic is data encryption, right? So we talk about encryption. So what is encryption? It's a very layman term. Encryption is where we convert a plain text, human readable, into something garbage, something nobody, even if they intercept it, it will not be useful to the person or to the hacker who intercepted it. That's encryption. So encryption is you take plain text, apply some encryption algorithm logic, and then spit out encrypted text, which is something not human readable. So that is data encryption. Now, data encryption can be, considered as two different places. One is data encryption at rest, and then data encryption in transit. So, when we talk about data encryption in transit, what do we mean? We mean that you have data source, and then from the data source you're trying to retrieve that data, and that could be the transit could be between user and the service. So for example, you can have Azure web app, and from web app a user is accessing the website. That should be encrypted while the data is being transmitted. So that is why HTTPS, if you can install a certificate on Azure web app, that will get encrypted. If you have any website which is accessing it, if it doesn't have certificate, the data encryption in transit is not secure. Similarly, Microsoft has all the services uses HTTPS endpoints by default. In case there are certain endpoints which supported HTTP, you can disable those. For example, storage also supports HTTPS, but in case you don't need to enable HTTP, you can disable HTTP. So all Microsoft services that we access today supports data encryption in transit. That is, you can access using HTTPS. There are certain exceptions where you can use with HTTP, but that can be disabled. But Microsoft gives you option. All the services which you access is secure. Azure SQL, Azure AD, storage, compute, anything SSH, anything that is going through is encrypted. Second encryption is, again, it's part of data transit. So data in transit between data centers. Now, in this case, for example, you have customer on-premise, and then, you have Azure data center, Azure region. So within that, you can have your VPN. So VPN encrypt the data in that, or you can use ExpressRoute. Now, ExpressRoute does not encrypt the data, but since it's a private lease line, you don't have to really worry about that. But if you really want to implement encryption there, you can do so. You can put your own devices and which can encrypt the data for ExpressRoute as well. But ExpressRoute traffic is not encrypted by default. Then you have end-to-end encryption. So this is, again, we're talking about data encryption in transit. So this is end-to-end encryption of communication between users. Now, this is something probably will not, be applicable for Azure as such. But for example, you can think about email services where, one user is sending email to another. So the entire communication has to be encrypted. Exchange does it for you. That is end-to-end encryption using, digital signature. You can digitally sign it and you can encrypt it. So that kind of encryption is a data in transit encryption. So then we have data encryption at rest. Now, data encryption at rest is, as says at rest, it means where data is being stored. So what we are doing is we are encrypting the data first. There are two ways we can talk about. One is client-side encryption, and another one is server-side encryption. So in the client side, if you look at it, let me blow it up for you. All right. Yeah. So on the client side encryption, if you look at it, you have encryption and key management belongs to the client side. That means the application that you're working. So for example, if you have on-premise application which is storing data into storage account in Azure storage account. So what you will do is you will use Microsoft SDK to create your own encryption and key management logic in your application, which will use that to encrypt the data even before it leaves the computer or the where the application is installed. So that is where it's called client-side encryption. Why? Because client is performing the actual encryption and it has inbuilt logic, and you have whole control what kind of encryption mechanism you want to use, what kind of key management you want to use, everything you can do. And just think about it like something where you want to encrypt it first. So this is client-side encryption, encrypt it first and then store it into your storage account. So it's encryption first and then you're storing it. In this case, if you don't have encryption in transit, then you need not worry because your data is already encrypted. Even if somebody intercepts it, they cannot decipher your data. So that's one benefit of client-side encryption, but it puts burden on you, onus on you. You need to provide resources and the algorithm, and you have to develop that. So you need your own developer to do this. This is called client-side encryption. Then we have server-side encryption. In server-side encryption, the encryption logic is with the resource provider. So for example, if we use storage account encryption, for example, there is SSE server-side encryption. In that case, the encryption logic and the key management resides, or it is responsibility of the resource provider. I mean, obviously you can also have your own key that you can bring your own keys, but essentially you cannot control what kind of encryption logic, what kind of encryption strength that you would use, because it will be determined by the resource provider. But the benefit is you don't have to take the headache, you don't have to code anything, you don't have to write your own APIs using the Microsoft SDKs, and you can use this. Whereas, but in this case, the data from application into before it goes to resource provider and it gets deposited there, this data is unencrypted. So you have to make sure that when you're using server-side encryption, make sure that data in transit encryption is turned on. Otherwise, if somebody intercepts this, for example, storage account can accept traffic on HTTP, which is unsecure, and if you send data over that, so remember, since you have not encrypted it, it is going unencrypted. Any hacker can hack it and then put the data into and they can steal the data basically. So you have to make sure when you're using server-side encryption, make sure that data in transit is also encrypted via HTTPS or the mechanism that your resource provider supports. In case of storage account, as I said, it's one of the service of Microsoft. It supports secure transit of the data. So make sure that you both the data in transit and data at rest both are enabled when you're using server-side encryption. All right. Okay, so I'll move on to the next slide. I see a question. Server and client-side encryption is only for data encryption at rest. True, Lakshmi. Yeah, that's right. So these two are for the data encryption for at rest. So obviously you want to encrypt and then before you send it. I mean, you can think about data in transit is where your SSL or before the point it leaves, it can get encrypted. So that's the point. And for client-side encryption, you can also think about, maybe it's data encryption transit as well, because the concept is when data is transiting, it should be encrypted. So if I implement client-side encryption, that means essentially not only I'm implementing data encryption at rest, but also encryption in transit, because now encrypted data is transiting, not the unencrypted data. All right, I'll move on to the next one, which is Azure Key Vault. And Lalit, you want to take the lead?
Sure, Neeraj. So basically, how the concept comes for Azure Key Vault, because whenever you have some applications on the cloud or the public cloud, so how earlier whatever you have direct interacted your applications from the Microsoft Azure to the public cloud and their applications and all. But now Microsoft has evolve, Azure Cloud Services, which is a, cloud-based management services, which is used to, a cryptography is key and the secret key, and it will, store those keys in your key vault, and whenever your applications will get and connect to your applications, whenever your application is trying to connecting to your databases or any other applications, it will just go and connect to first key vault, and from key vault to your database or wherever it want to get the data. And when it connects to the key vault, there are two keys. One is key and another one is secret key. So basically it will, get and match those unique keys, and then only it will allow to, connect your databases or the backend services to, provide those data. As you can see in the diagram, see, let's say I have a subscription, the resource group, I have a storage account and the virtual machines and the key vault. So in the key vault part, if you can clearly say, when the applications get connected to the key vault, it has two keys. One is key and another one is a secret key. This is, you have a key version, the secret version. So basically both are, one is a storing key method would be here. It will be two types. One is, software provided protected key, another one is a hardware protected key. So where it comes with the software protected key and the hardware protected key, software protected key will be, managed by the us, and then hardware protected key will be managed by the Microsoft, kind of things would be there. So even though if you wanted to store your certificates for AES encryption key and the database connection string, so those are all the things you can keep it over there, and give those Azure Key Vault connections to your applications and provide those parameters. So whenever your applications are getting connected, they will be pure encrypted and your data will be secure. Right?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, if I can come in for a quick.
Please.
So, for software protected keys and hardware protected keys are slightly different. So in software protected key, Microsoft will use software based Azure Key Vault, whereas hardware protected is HSM, which is called hardware security module, and those are physical devices on which. So there are a lot of financial domains, where the financial companies, they want keys to be stored on a physical device, right? So in that case, what you can do is you can use the HSM protected keys. And remember, Microsoft, in fact, Microsoft's recommendation is to use HSM keys if you are sending it, if you're storing it for production. So don't use software protected keys if you're going to use in production. That's only for the dev purpose. But if you're in production, please make sure that you use hardware protected keys. And as Lalit said, that you have keys and secret. So secret is any kind of password that you'll store, or certificate that is called secret, or social media password, or connection string to a database, or any application connection string. All those are called classified as secret. Keys is like which is cryptography. It is used for app services. You can think about BitLocker encryption key is one example where we use the keys, right? And I think Azure Key Vault comes into two offerings. One is standard tier, and another is premium tier. Premium tier is where it is supported by HSM, and it supports more operations than your standard tier. So based on that, you can look at your options and the other HSM. So for example, you can see the standard tier. If I can blow it, so for standard tier, you can see the HSM protected key is not available. So if you need HSM protection, please use premium tier. Okay, so don't don't use. So if you look at it here, and if yeah, so you can look at it in a standard tier doesn't have HSM protected key. So in case you need HSM protected key, please make sure that you are using premium tier. All right, and don't use it for production. Microsoft recommendation is use hardware protected keys. All right. Yeah. So hardware protected keys should be used for production, and it's backed by a hardware security module, right?
Right, yes.
So then we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so there's a question: is there any way to migrate keys from HSM to Azure Key Vault? Is there required? So it will depend on, like, for example, I know a lot of people use on-prem key vault. So if you have on-prem key vault and you want to migrate those, yes, you can do that, certainly, without any issues. But but it will depend on the HSM provider that you have, the HSM that you are using, right? It can depend on that. But yes, it is possible. You can do that for sure. All right, let's move on to the. So I think we'll take this. We'll quickly go through this slide, not really spend on this much time. We'll talk about, Azure Key Vault. How do we use Azure Key Vault, and what are the different steps that is involved? So first, you'll create an Azure Key Vault. Once you have created the key vault, you have to make sure that you authorize the app or user who will access, who will, get access to these keys. So you have to make sure that you have assigned appropriate permission to the key management and key access and the secret permission. So you can specify permissions selectively for key operations and a secret operation. So both you can do that. You can create or import your own keys and secret. And I think one of the question was there that can we do that? Yes, you can do that, but you have to export it from your current HSM on-prem, and then from there you can bring it. So Azure does allow you to import it, so you can do that. You can develop your, and then once it is done, then you develop your app which will use URI. So URI is Uniform Resource Indicator, if I'm not mistaken, or URI. So using that URI is where you will get access to the key. So every key has a unique URI, and then finally you use that and see it is working as per your requirement. So that was for the Azure Key Vault creation. Then you have keys creation. So you can choose what kind of key you need, a software key or HSM protected key, as we talked about in the previous slide. You can do that. You also have option of activation date. So you can say, I don't want my keys to be activated immediately, but after a certain time. You can do that. You can set your activation date, and if you see on the right side, you see you have activation date. You can also set the expiration date of a particular key, so it will not be usable after that. So that you can do. Then you also have expiration date we talked about. So you have activation date. You can say that in future only this should be activated and should only be active for a month, and after that it should expire. So all these settings you have available as a part of Azure Key Vault configuration. Then let's quickly talk about Azure Key Vault Analytics. So what is Azure Key Vault Analytics? And I have put it on purpose. This is a new feature, and I think if it is still in preview, if I'm not mistaken. So what it does is it integrates your Key Vault uses into OMS, and with OMS you can look into it, you can do a log analysis, you can do an analytics and see who has done what and what kind of operation has happened over a period of time. And the way you do it, there are two settings that you have to turn on. One is on the Key Vault. You have to make sure that you turn on your diagnostic settings. So on the diagnostic setting, you have to make sure that you turn on your diagnostic and send it to your OMS workspace, whichever OMS workspace you have, you send it to there. Once it is there, you will have to log into your OMS workspace, and under that you have to enable Azure Key Vault Analytics solution under OMS. With that, once that solution is enabled, you will be able to see the uses of your Azure Key Vault and what kind of operations happened, and all the loggings that you have. So first step is turn on the logging, make sure that it is connected and configured to send to OMS. Once that is done, then you can go back to OMS, enable the Azure Key Vault Analytics solution, and once the solution is turned on, you will be able to see what's happening and how your key vault is being accessed and what operations has happened, who has done what. All those information, you will have audit information. And essentially it's a OMS analytics solution for your Azure Key Vault. Right, this is how it looks like, when you enable that. So you will have this key vault operation. So you can see different options. You have key gate, who has asked for key, secret gate, which is for secret. So remember, key is cryptographic key, secret is password or certificate or connection strings. All those information you will see who has tried to list your secrets, the versions and everything. All those operations you will see. Any failed operation, which means somebody tried to access it or trying to brute force it, right? So they don't have the right URI and they're trying to enumerate it. So those information, you will get it here. And if there is any latency, if you're troubleshooting any issues in terms of retrieving keys is delayed, it's taking time, so you can look at the latency. And all this information you can see as a part of your visual dashboard, which OMS provides to you. So OMS Key Vault. Now OMS is as a solution, OMS as a workspace has multiple solutions. So you have workspace, within workspace you have different solutions. So Key Vault Analytics is one of the solution which helps you to analyze Key Vault usage pattern. All right, so that you have to enable to see what's happening with your Azure Key Vault. All right, I think that was the last slide. So we'll open the floor for question and answer, and I'm going to unmute the audience, and we'll open the floor for 5 minutes to take any questions and answers. If you have any question, please go ahead and unmute yourself and ask those questions, and after that we'll get into the demo. Anybody has any questions?
Hey Neeraj, this is MP. I have a question.
Yeah.
So I was using the key vault, and I faced an issue that the key vault was getting hit the performance, and second thing, sometimes it was getting expired. Means the time for maintaining the key vault, getting the keys were very like a short span. So can you give me a little bit of idea of the performance for the key vault and the time span, if you have any idea?
So well, as I said, if you have performance issue, you can turn on Key Vault Analytics and look at the latency and see where the problem is. So your OMS Key Vault Analytics can help you with the latency part. The second piece which you said about the expiration, so please make sure that you have set the expiration date. We talked about that on the Key Vault. You can set your secret and keys. You have activation date and expiration date. So if you have turned on your expiration date, it will expire after that. So make sure that your expiration date is set sufficiently for you, and it's not set for very short duration. Otherwise, it will expire and you will not be able to use the keys. So I would use OMS Key Vault Analytics for troubleshooting the performance issue. And I will look at Key Vault and the keys or permissions expiration date onto my Key Vault to see if it's set to expire. All right. Any other questions?
No,
Hey, Neeraj. Sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, Neeraj is Pranali Menon here.
Yeah.
My question is, Neeraj, is it recommended to say that, or is it a good practice to say that we need to move the keys if you have an HSM infrastructure? Is it a good practice to move the keys from HSM to Azure Key Vault? Is that a recommended practice that we should propose to the clients, or is it depending on the requirements?
Well, it depends on your customer's requirement, right? So for example, if customer is saying that the key should be operated and managed by your organization, in that case probably it will not be a good idea to move into, because then you will lose the compliance. right? A lot of time key ownership comes into the picture, and who is maintaining the HSM. So in this case, HSM is operated by Microsoft, but obviously they don't have access to it. But if you have contractual, very clear delineation that the key vault or the HSM must be owned by your company, in that case probably you cannot. At the same time, there are certain services, which will not work if you don't have keys in Azure Key Vault. So for example, if you want to turn on the Azure Disk Encryption, right? So Azure Disk Encryption, it requires a BitLocker encryption key to be there in Azure Key Vault. So in that case scenarios, you will have to move those keys if you really want to, or you have to use Azure Key Vault for that. So you have to look at your compliance requirement, and you have to look at the technical requirement which Azure puts forward. You cannot integrate Azure Services or Azure Services encryption with on-prem HSM. There are very few. I think even ADE also there is third-party solution using which you can do it, but it's very rare. But most of the solution will not be able to use the key from on-prem. You will have to use Azure Key Vault. So you have to keep both in mind before you take that decision: the compliance and the technical limitations.
All right, got it. Thank you very much.
All right, so I see a couple of questions on scan agent.
So Neeraj, Raviraj here. So like what I was thinking. So this AMS, we need to install agent on the server for scanning, right? So when we go to the Azure Trust Center, it gives me some recommendation saying that these are the security you can see and just fix it, right?
Yes.
So does it do the like scanning on the network layer as well? Let's say on NSGs.
Yes, it does.
Encryptions.
Yes, it does.
Let's say any application is hosted over the server. I mean, like any web-based application hosted on the server, and it is open to internet on the 443. So how does that app scan does? Like I need to monitor my website continuously.
Yeah, so Azure Security Center has native integration with its PaaS. So if you are using Azure Web App, it will monitor that, and it will give you the information. So it will give you information about network. It will give information about NSG. If you have internet outbound connection is open, then also it will report onto it. If your encryption is not turned on, then it will report onto you. If your website is not HTTPS, then it will report onto you. If you don't have a WAF, web application firewall, then also it will report onto it. And there are a lot of lists, a laundry list. Maybe we can send you that article, and that can help you to really understand what all it reports on.
Okay, last question. Is it free or is it chargeable?
So two version. Maybe Lalit can talk more about it. Lalit, you want to take this question?
Right. So basically, it's two types. One is free, and for free is 500 MB per day limit. So whatever the data, if it is scanning till 500 MB, it will scan, and after that, if anything is happened, it will stop scanning. But when you just go with the standard, it is the limit will be increased as per your node. So per node 1 GB or probably more than 2 GB or 3 GB could be getting, and apart from that, you'll get some additional services like you can customize the alert and the compliance dashboard and couple of other things which is there. So I think Neeraj, I would suggest let's go into the demo. So we can show that security center help team to be that fix those kind of issues.
All right, so no problem. Let's go ahead and do that. So what we'll do is we'll get into the demo. So you can go ahead and start presenting, and I will mute the audience once again, and so that we can go through the demo. All right,
sure.
Thank you.
I'm just sharing my screen.
All right, it's loading. So Lalit, you'll have to unmute yourself because I muted, so you also got muted.
you're able to view, like, you're able to
Yeah, I
view
can
my
see it.
screen.
Yep.
Right. So as you can see, like whenever you have an your services are running into the Azure platform, this is just security center. How we can just integrate? Basically, it is auto integrated services, which is get integrated with all the services. What you have to do is just go into the all services and search for security center, and it will get it this dashboard. So I have never done to integration for any services anything. It is auto integrated as Neeraj has already said on that, and it will get a complete scan of your environment. So as you can see in the overview, if you see the policy and the compliance dashboard, so in my environment, I have only 2 or 3 VMs or the SQL databases, and then a policy compliance would 50%. If you can see, it's 50%. So you can see the uh, compliance your environment. What are the risks are there, and how many subscription I have. Okay, these are the resource groups which I have, which is have couple of datas and all. And if you can see that compliance over the times, you will get it. And here you'll get an a recommendation. When you say a 5 priority, that means it is a really a high priority. It is clearly saying the first one you can you just get it ignored. It depends on the what is saying that I have to migrate it to the paid one. But let's say for now we don't talk about that. But they're saying you don't have endpoint protection to be enabled on this server. When I just click on the endpoint protection, I don't have any antivirus installed in this server. That is itself a risk, right? So even it is giving you options to get it installed, but make sure it depends on the organization to organization. They are using in McAfee. If you have the organization using in and different softwares, and Microsoft is giving you the Microsoft anti-malware, which is almost which is free services for you. So you can get it install this also, or you can use your own custom antivirus application and get it installed. Apart from that, it is giving you don't have any next generation firewall. Next generation firewall like Checkpoint or the Palo Alto, which you can put between your public services and to the Azure, and let's route your all the traffics through that next generation firewall. So it will track down your attacks or the cyber attacks, or if someone is trying to hack something, the data, that it will drop those things. Because if it is it's a open communication, because directly you are getting connecting to the public cloud. So it will in between you have some security layer where it will give you a more overview, and to it will give you it was the advanced layer of your security. As I was saying that because I have a public IP which is directly getting and connecting to the publicly. So even though if you just click on this public IP and click on new, it will give you a list of the firewall solutions which available in Microsoft Azure in Microsoft Azure Marketplace. If you can see, you have Barracuda networks, Checkpoint firewall, Cisco systems. Even you'll get a Fortinet and the Palo Alto networks. These are the firewalls which you have. So based on your organization requirement and the recommendation, these firewalls you can configure it, and that's route those things through those firewalls, and get an advanced layer of securities. So which you can it is giving you as a high priority, which is safe 5. Safe 5 means it's a high priority. Apart from that, you don't have an NSG group. I'd say, as we have Neeraj already talked about on this, that you don't have a network security group on the subnet level, but Microsoft recommend if you have a network security group on the subnet level, you can still block those attacks while enabling into this. And same way, if you let's say the 443 is open to your internet from your web applications, those alerts itself will come into here. as you can see that if it is any to any or anything, so you can track down those alert down. If you between, you can put in another firewall, next generation firewalls and all, or you can restrict to the specific IPs or the specific applications and the source destination. If you can say 10.156.0.1, and if it is going to 10.156.0.2 on the publicly, so you can just source and the destination. If you can clearly define that, you can again mitigate your risk. So that is in one part which you can here in this from the security center, it will give you and things to apply an NSG. So I can get it apply. If I just click here, it will get it applied. Apart from that, it has virtual machines. How many virtual machines which are saying that the disk is not encrypted. So it's again your organizations or your strength. You have to check on that how we can encrypt those data. So the disk will be encrypted, as you have to configure the key vault. As you can see, the safeguard of your encryption keys is Azure Key Vault, including your encryption key and the temporary disk. So that those are the services you have to enable. Either you have to migrate your VM's disk to the managed disk and then get it enable those encryption. Apart from that, and then I have one VM which is open to internet. So basically it is showing that I have this VM and then I have an IP and it's a medium disk. It's saying these are clearly description. So I have says any, it's a MySQL or any protest, any. It will get unconnected. So that is again a risk, but it's a medium risk. But high risk, we have to get an immediate action and get it fixed, because it can hamper our environment. Similarly, for resource health monitoring, if you can see a resource health monitoring of computer and the web apps, if you can see in apps, it is a monitoring alert, right? I'll say these two VMs are in the power off, and it's saying okay, these are in the power off. Apart from that, we'll have an endpoint and the disk encryption. If you click on the VMs and the compliance, nothing is there, and the apps is nothing is there. So, but let's just move to the data one. How? So all your data is encrypted. It is saying that okay, storage account is healthy, but those are encrypted. See, I have already get it encrypted, enable those encryptions, the storage account encryption into my services, and it is showing this okay, these 6 storage accounts are encrypted and healthy. So that's how you can make your environment healthy and all. And then that could be shame. So similarly, you'll get all those things, and then apart from that, we'll get a recommendation. So these are the recommendation which you will get, and you can the networks and the apps, you will see the identity and the access management. For this you have to upgrade your subscription to the higher level. Have security solutions. It will provide you the security solutions, which is SIEM and the non-Azure computers. Let's say you have a on-premises computers which you wanted to onboard, you can get these options, and the common event format or SIEM solution. Let's say you have some other solutions or some IBM solutions which you wanted to
I mean, if you have your own, SIM solution like Splunk, for example, the security incident and monitoring. So in that case, you can integrate with Splunk or Logarithm is also another SIM solution. So you can use any solution and you can pull the information from Azure Security Center into your local SIM, and you can integrate that. So basically, that's for the security and compliance purpose. You can do that too. And then I think advanced threat analytics and Azure AD identity protection, those are part of Azure AD Premium. So if you have enabled Azure AD Premium, you will be able to leverage, Azure threat analytics and Azure AD identity protection, which is like privileged account management. So you can just turn on that, and users will have to request for that privileged permission, and it will be just-in-time access. So those security features, you can turn it on and access it. So those solutions you can also turn on. And if I'm not mistaken, you see non-Azure computer. So that's where you can add your agents. OMS, and I think now the Azure Security Center is part of OMS, Operation Management Suite. So you can install the OMS agent, and that agent will be able to get the data, the security information from your non-Azure computer, which is like on-prem or any other cloud provider. You can get that information too.
Right, yes.
But I think it is only for computers, so it will not monitor anything, network, anything. It only computers, so within the operating system.
Yes. Even if you have thread protection and all, that is just it is refreshing, and that if it is there any thread protections, anything, so you can it is again advanced detection. You will get a security incident detected, the priority and everything. It will send out an alert. And if you have a paid version, the standard version, you'll get those features to be enabled, that who has attacked your domain or the services and where it has been attacked, the workspace, everything. You can customize your alert basically. If you have your own things, and non-domain, non-admin login, if it is non-domain login would be there, and the threat intelligence which has capability detect those attacks or the cyber attacks all over the world, which is, so as of now it is saying no threat detected. If there is any threat in any of the Microsoft data center, it will you'll get it over here. All those alerts. You have playbook or the automations. You can run your automations, and if you wanted to install or encrypt your data, you can add your playbooks over here and get it done. Yes, and yes.
Yeah, I think these are some new features which Microsoft has added, and that's why you see this in preview, right? So custom alerts, threat intelligence, these are preview, playbooks are preview. So these are features which Microsoft is refining and maturing it. So make sure that you're doing it in the testing environment. Don't do it in production. This preview feature is not supposed to be used in production. If you use it, make sure that you don't have critical data dependent. But these are some new features which Microsoft is adding, and it will keep evolving. Azure Security Center will keep evolving. Now with OMS integration, it's going to become really a great product. So keep that in mind. And it's Azure Security Center itself is a huge topic as such, and it will be very difficult for us to cover everything. We can dedicate 2 sessions just for Azure Security Center itself. So
right. There's been if I can show my experience on this part, like when I see just a month ago or 1.5 months ago, those features are not available on this part. So it's been a really a new features over here.
Yeah. So maybe quickly, I think we are 8 minutes past our allotted time. Let's spend some time with Azure Key Vault, and then we will conclude. So I'm really sorry, guys, for
just 3 more new things which is there. So another one, adapter application control. So if you have any applications running inside the VMs or in the subscriptions, so if you can see that how it will works and that detects those traces and the exe, if it is get hampered or something, that it will shown over here just in time. Basically it is just used for the RDP purpose. So let's say you can limitize the access for, let's say if you wanted to give an access for your vendor for 5 minutes or 1 hour or 5 hours, after that it will that session will be disconnected.
This is also another security feature, and you can combine this with privilege account management or PIM of identity. So in this case, the NSG ports will be open only for 1 hour. Let's say if you set it for, after that it will block 3389 and nobody can do RDP. So that will disconnect the session also. So yeah, that's I think one of
best features.
Yep.
And the last one is file integrity monitoring, where you can integrate your files with the OMS. It will get a scan, and in the workspace you can see the monitoring files, and whenever we are transferring our files, or having some files or some data in your storage account, and if it is get corrupted, or any identity change, unplanned change you have, it will you will get a notify via monitoring. So that is another going to be awesome features, but I will not go into deeper. Let's Sunil says, let's go into the key vault, how you can create a key vault services. I'll just click on the all services and the keys, and I'll click on the key vault here, and let me just add a new key vault services. So once I'll click on the new key vault services, it will ask the name of the key vault. I'll say AzureTalk session, and it's my subscription, and I'll use my existing resource group here. And now it will asking for me is the pricing tier and the P1 or the standard.
So if you look at it here, this is where standard and premium, right? So standard is software backed. Okay,
right.
It's not HSM, it's not hardware security module, and that's why you will see HSM backed keys only in the standard. So make sure that you select HSM if you're doing for production. All right, so that's the. So go ahead, select the HSM. The premium tiers, pricing tier.
Fine.
Yep. Yeah.
And then
this is where you will define the policy who has operations like in management. This is for the key vault management permission. So what kind of permission is there? So you can specify. So if you click on your user account, you can add any. So these are some of the the options or the rules that you can give. And these are some of, for example, if you want to give any key management or secret management permission, you can do that. Certificate management, you can do that. SQL, or you can define your own. You can say custom. Just leave that. Come out of it. Yeah, you can specify what options you want to. If you click on the any user, you can add the principal. Click on the select principal. And add any user. You can, if you have any other user. Yeah. So, and if you look at, so you have two permissions, right? So you have key permissions, so cryptographic keys. You have get, list, update, create. This is for, and then you have secret. And secret also, you have secret permissions, right? So if you look at, you have key management, and then you have cryptographic operations. So these two kind of operations you have. Key management is who can do with the keys, who can delete the keys, who can retrieve the keys. And cryptographic is where you will allow the uses of that key for encryption, decryption, wrapping, and unwrapping of those keys. So these two kind of permissions you have for both. So you can set all those permissions from here, access policies, and you can give, depending on what you want. In this case, you can give all the permissions. So you have key permission, secret permission, and certificate permission. So certificate is your private key certificates. And in fact, Azure Key Vault can also manage your certificate. It can auto renew the certificates also if it is expiring. And this is where you will, this is where you will specify the application access. So any application which will access the Azure Key Vault to retrieve the secret. So this is where you can specify the authorized applications. So any application that you have created, you can, like a web app. So if you have a web app and that web app is registered in Azure AD, you can specify that, hey, allow this web app to access my Azure Key Vault to retrieve the connection string for SQL Server, instead of storing it in your connection file, right? You don't want to do that.
Right.
Then there is new feature. Yep. This is where this is talking about service endpoints. I hope you would have watched our session on service endpoint and networking. So service endpoint is Microsoft is enabling service endpoint for Azure Key Vault also. So earlier it was not there. Earlier it was only for SQL storage these two, but now they're expanding and Azure Key Vault is there. So now you don't need, so Azure Key Vault need to be accessed over internet. But if you have only VMs is sitting in your VNet and that need access to your Azure Key Vault, for that you don't need to open it internet connection. So you can just turn on this service endpoint, and then without internet connection also your VM can connect to Azure Key Vault and retrieve, for example, BitLocker encryption key, or a web server running. It can retrieve the the database connection string. All this information it can do it. You don't need internet connection, by the way, if you turn it on.
Right, Neeraj. So just have to select network and add this thing. So before adding that virtual network, we should enable the security endpoint from the VNets, and then get it enabled. Let me just create this key vault quickly and show you how you're going to enable the endpoints for this. Once I'll click on the virtual network, I'll select the AzureTalk virtual networks, and here I'll click on the subnets and my default subnets, and here is I have our services endpoint, and I have to select in the key vault services, which is, if you can see over here, and I'll click on the save. So whatever the services are going through this particular VNet and using this subnet IP can access Microsoft Key Vault services without open to your without opening to your public cloud, or you can get those services enabled. And as just Key Vault services has been configured, and I'll just go and quickly go to resources here. And if you can see, right, here you have a complete dashboard of key vaults and the activities, and in the settings, if you can see, keys are there. What are the keys you have to generate, or you wanted to
so maybe let's create one key. So you can click on generate import, and you have two options: generate, or you can let system generate it for you. So you can do that, and set the, so you have key type. What kind of key is RSA, HSM, those the key size 2048, 3072, or 4096, and then you can also set an activation date and expiration date. So if you set it an activation date, you can set it that it should be active in the future, and you can set an expiry date which sets it to the let's put it for one. Go ahead, create one. So after 2 years it will expire, right? So for 2 years it is, that's why. And then once this is created, once you click on that, you can also have multiple versions. So for example, you have on the top, you see new version. So I can have version 1, version 2, version 3 of the same key, where I have to rotate. So remember, most of the time you will have to rotate the keys. So you can do that, and if you set it, go ahead and generate one. So now you will see that we will have another version. You see, older version is here and newer version is here, right? So this is what you can do. And similarly for secret is where you store your username, password, connection strings, all sort of thing. You can do it. So manually you can say, a connection string, you can give a name connection string. And this is where you will specify your SQL connection string, anything that you want, you wish to, you can configure it here. Or maybe you can, if you have password, right? So password to connect to any data source, you can put that password here. So you have, then you have keys and secret, then you have certificate, right? So if you go back, so certificate, this is where you will store your certificate, and you can handle the certificate management, all those from here, and you can upload your certificate, and with that what will happen is it will also be responsible for generating auto certificate.
Right, yes.
I mean, renewing, sorry, auto renewing. So if it is about to expire, yeah, it will renew that certificate for you. All right, I think
access policy in the firewall virtual network, which is we have already covered. So far, we have covered and almost.
Yeah, so if you click on log analytics, just quickly, that will give us idea about the key vault analytics, how to enable it. Yeah, so this is where you will turn on your log key vault analytics, right? So if you turn that on, what's going to happen is this will turn on your log key vault analytics, and you will be sending this to OMS workspace, and you will see all your details, all your activity that has happened onto the OMS workspace. So this is where you have to first make sure that you turn on the diagnostic, and once the diagnostic is turned on, connect your OMS workspace, and once OMS workspace is connected, you will be able to see the key vault analytics.
Right.
All right, I think with that, we're 20 minutes past our allotted time. I really appreciate everybody staying back and listening to our presentation and session. I really appreciate everybody. So with that, we are going to call it off, and well, I want to thank everybody for joining our session today. It was I hope you find it useful, and we will keep bringing more such sessions in future, and please do keep an eye for our future sessions, and you can register onto our website, and you will receive a notification every 2 weeks or so. We will not really spam you. So in case you want to register, go to www.cloudeasy.com and register there. So you will become part of our database, and you'll receive notification every 2 weeks when we do this kind of sessions. With that, I want to thank everybody for joining our session today, and hopefully we'll see you again in our next session. Keep learning Azure, and if you have any questions, please do join our AzureTalk Telegram group, which is t.me/AzureTalk, and also we request you, if you find these sessions useful, do go ahead and spread the information about about our session, and so that maximum benefit can be taken out of our session, so people can get benefited and other people can also join in. So I want to thank you again, and thank you, Lalit, for conducting session and helping us to this session. Thanks everybody. Thank you, Lalit.
Thanks. Yes. Thanks everybody for be there till the end.